Puerto Rico isn't super diverse as far as wildlife goes. In plants, I think yes, but in animals, no. There are very few animals that live on the island that aren't domesticated. Basically, you've got bats and birds and lizards and frogs and rodents, and I think that's it. And the biggest thing that you'll see a lot in Puerto Rico, depending on where you're at, is iguanas. There are tons of iguanas. I guess there used to not be as many, but now the population has just kind of exploded because there's nothing, they don't have any predators. So they're just kind of taking over. And in one of my areas, we would see tons of iguanas all the time. And they get hit on the road, and they're in the trees, and they're right next to your house sometimes when you come home. And the big thing for a lot of missionaries is to try and catch an iguana so that you can take a picture with it to send home. And they're kind of, I mean, they're not dangerous. I don't think they'll kill you, but they will whip you with their tails and they'll scratch you with their claws. And we did catch one once, and we wanted to eat it, but we didn't know how, because apparently you can do that as well. And so there's definitely a lot of iguanas. If you want a picture with them, good luck. It's not very easy to catch them, but it can be done. So that's fun. The other big animal that everyone talks about is the coqui, which is like this famous frog in Puerto Rico. Supposedly, I guess it's only from Puerto Rico. That's the only place that it is native from. I think it is like it lives in Hawaii now, I guess. It's kind of an invasive species. But Puerto Rico is its home, and it's the only place on Earth where it exists. And it makes a distinctive whistling noise. It goes. And so that's just kind of the famous, coqui noise. And you will hear it from the time you get off the plane until the time you get on the plane, because they are just constantly, especially at night, just singing, and they're everywhere, except maybe in San Juan. But so there's tons of those. And I only saw, I think, like 4 or 5 in my entire mission. They're very small, like that big. And so you don't see them a lot, but you hear them all the time. You've got cockroaches, obviously. It's hot and they can get kind of big, and sometimes they're in your apartment. There are lots of ants. I think all of my apartments had ants in them, and spiders. There are tarantulas, but I never saw one, but supposedly they are. One time in one of my areas, we did find like a python that it's not native. There aren't a lot of big snakes in Puerto Rico, but one of our investigators told us that he had seen this snake on his property, and it bit his dog, I guess, and his dog didn't die. But then later, while we were crossing a bridge, we saw this big python, and it was just coiled up there, and we were like, oh my goodness. And my companion wanted to catch it, and I thought that was a bad idea, so we didn't, but we took some pictures. And so there are things like that. I think I've heard there are crocodiles in some parts, kind of invasive, just anything jungly. There are some, I guess. There are parrots in some parts, and those are native. So yeah, it's kind of fun. Normally there's not too much wildlife, but sometimes if you're in the right place, you can find some fun adventure with wildlife. Dogs, everyone has a dog, I think. And I loved dogs before my mission, and now I'm not too fond of dogs. Because they bark so much, and they'll chase you, and they will bite you. I never got bit by a dog, but I did have one experience with my companion when we were walking down the street, and 5 or 6 dogs, big dogs, came out, and they started barking at us, and they like surrounded us. And I took off my bag, and my companion was so scared. He was just cowering, and I had my bag, and I was ready to hit them, and I was going to. And they were like biting at his heels, and I was swinging at them. And finally the owner came out and he called them off, but we were pretty scared. And I know plenty of other missionaries who did actually get bit by dogs. So that's definitely something to watch out for, as dogs. Always be ready to smack them or just scare them, because usually if you turn around and, get in their face, they'll run away. But not always. So